This is Neil King for the Random Acts of Cartooning, and I'm in Philadelphia to do a sketch at the Washington Monument Fountain outside of the Art Museum. But first, okay, so it's a beautiful spring-like day here in Philadelphia, and there's this beautiful monument that I've passed by many times. right outside of the Philadelphia Art Museum. And I stationed myself right under it. It's pretty tall. And I'm just going to do like a little wash drawing with some pen and ink. And so I brought my trusty Ticonderoga, and I'm going to draw this Washington, some part of the Washington figure on this horse. I'm not going to do the whole thing. I could have. I was really thinking about what I should do, and I was thinking I should try to make this into a spread. And I think it's tough when you're trying to, in your sketchbook. I have my sketchbook here, and I kind of like doing the spreads for them. So for this one, I have to be aware, again, you have that gutter right there in the middle. So if I put the two you have Washington up there, and I have to make it work, I have to get the horse's head past that the gutter, so that it doesn't get kind of cut off and everything. So I have to manipulate the reality of the sculpture to kind of make that work. It's not that much of a leap of how much I'm going to get the figures to be a little bit further away from each other. So the way I work is I'm just looking up and back at the sculpture, which is, it's at least up there, 20 feet up. And I have to get my shapes in. And so I'm just kind of laying them in pretty quickly. I'm trying to, get there. I have like a wooden backing, and clips my sketchbook onto it. So I'm just kind of moving along and laying in all the big shapes that I need. Because to me, when I'm doing these things, I'm looking for proportions, and it's tough because it's so far away. I prefer to be a little bit closer up to things so I can really, really see them. So there's a certain amount of detail when things are far away that you really can't see. And I want to be aware of that. But as I do it, I just keep saying to myself, where is that hat, going on his brow? Like with the horse, is that horse's head at least twice longer than Washington's head? Like there's a lot of things. Where does the hair come off of this? So when you're out there sketching, and I'm a cartoonist, again, I do find myself constantly just being like, oh, I know where that would go. And, but I when I'm doing it, the reason I'm doing these things is to get myself focused on looking at the reality and getting myself to try to be able to put that down. It would be a lot easier for me if I took a picture of this and just did it at home. There were probably a zillion pictures of this thing, and but it's a great thing to be able to do, to go somewhere and really enjoy just kind of being outdoors and taking in a sculpture like this. So this sculpture was made apparently in 1897. It's a spectacular image. And I feel like I'll come back again and get some of those other sculptures as much as I can. Because there's just all the figures with the animals and all this stuff. It's just really great. But when you're outside like this, it was in the morning, and so I bring my fountain pen out, and I've been using this fountain pen a lot for my exterior stuff that I do. And you just gotta go in there, and again, like I can't say enough that if this statue was on my, like in front of me, even 10 feet away, that I feel like I could see a little bit more of how those eyes are working. And but the thing I'm trying to catch, because it's hard to say if I could get a likeness from so far away, because there's lots of stuff like within the eyes and how they all work. And as I'm drawing this thing, I just keep, there's a certain amount of pressure that I feel that I want to have a likeness to the actual character. Like Washington, we've all seen him there's a million different images have been made of him, so you kind of get an idea what he looks like. But with this, it's a lot of little things. So I don't want to fuss over all of this, and I don't want to make And when you're working with ink like this, I'm just going right on with ink. Every line could conceivably bring you to a place where you over render, and then it gets muddied up and it's not so good. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm playing off of a hatch, a hatch line, and I'm going around and I'm trying to get as much of that as I can. And you can see, like, I'm keeping the hatch under control as much as I can. And I'm just kind of moving around and getting the major parts in there. I'm going to go in there with a little color wash on top. And when you're close to this stuff, a bronze that's been out there for so long, like these things, I don't know the last time this has been cleaned and all the stuff that you get, but you're getting that patina. There's a whole different kind of a look to the colors. I see in my brain, I see like this kind of greenish, bluish stuff, but so I'll eventually kind of get in with that. But with the pen and ink, I'm just really trying to say, like, where are my darkest areas? I squint my eyes to see it, and again, because it's far away, way up there, there's just a certain amount that you can do. Like, I feel like I can do it. It's an amazing sculpture. I mean, it's super realistic, and all of those things that were made are just so spectacularly done. And when you see this kind of work, it's a great thing to be able to do, and it's right outside of the art museum if you've ever been. But I do really enjoy kind of having time to sit there and do all this stuff, especially with the line work that we're seeing. So as I move along, you can see I'm just kind of getting all those darks in. And then, the further along I went, like, I was finding myself saying, how much should I leave alone? But when you're building the values like this, I feel more confident when I'm doing this kind of a thing. Like, I can come in and control that hatch after a certain amount of time. But knowing, I keep saying, thinking to myself too, well, how will it be affected by that the watercolor then it goes on top? So I don't want to overdo it. And if I was doing a regular hatched line, I feel like it would have been a little more controlled. But I kind of like the look of it, this kind of almost haphazard hatch. But I'm keeping the hatches, small. They're not like a very long hatch. So I feel like I'm getting closer to kind of the proportions in his face, and even the horse, the way that they have rendered this specific one. It's kind of getting there. I'm almost ready for the color. So as always, I am a working cartoonist, and I like people to go to my Amazon store, and there's a link for it in this episode, as all of my episodes have it. And here are some of my kids' books: The Deep End, Spaghetti Eddie with the Meatball Eyes, My Parents Are Ninjas, all age book group books. Fun little stories anybody could kind of get into. All on my Amazon store. I also have adult stuff there too. And I do a lot of sketches, commissions and stuff. I love to do conventions where I just go and sketch. These are some of them. And you can contact me about these kind of things or catch me at my next convention. So make sure you're liking and subscribing this episode. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to put some color in this, and this usually just takes a few minutes because I'm just doing it's a monochromatic piece, and I'm making this into like a blue-grayish color, and I feel like I want to keep it, and I keep looking back and forth at the sculpture, and because I feel like the way that it looks, it's not like a shiny bronze. It's definitely been around, and I definitely, when I look at things like this, and I put in this little value of a color, I think it makes the overall piece pop a little bit more. Even I'm not trying to make it look like the color it is now, but it gives me the feeling of it when I see it like this. I prefer to do this than a lot of times when I'll go out, I'll use an umber, where to me it gives that real sense. I love that kind of subtlety that you get with an umber. But when you give it a color like this, I think it's definitely giving me the feeling of the different look of a bronze like this. And a weathered bronze that's been around for a long time. There is a true beauty to all of it, and there's a part of you that doesn't want it to be cleaned or cleaned up. It has a different look, but I wonder when the last time it was done. But it's such a spectacular fountain, and that it's here and people see it every day. And, it's almost like you take it for granted when you see something that's this monumental. Right in front of you. So I'm kind of going in and trying to get that light, medium, darks. And again, like when you do something like this, I think it's really, it pops the whole illustration, and you're not looking quite as much at the hatching line. It's definitely works with it. But you can see, to me, it looks a little bit more like me, a little more cartoony than probably I wanted to necessarily be in this piece. But I think it has, I think the proportions are pretty good. And even though I had to make for that, I was saying with the gutter in the sketchbook, I think it's working with it, and I think it's interesting to have a double spread like this. And I'm just kind of pushing that in there with my water pen. These are great on the road. Like, you just pull this thing out, it's got a water in it, you push, you squeeze the end of it, and it pushes a little bit of the water so you can, mix your watercolor colors. I have a small little pan of color in there. Very limited, but it works really well with this. And again, like when the day is as nice as that, I think it was like 70 degrees, and it was like 9:30 or 10 o'clock in the morning. Perfect time to get out there before it gets really hot, to stand out in and draw as people are walking by and all that stuff. I do really enjoy getting out and doing that. We're lucky where I live. There's a lot of places that you can go, and especially in Philly, where there's so many interesting things out there. So I'm mixing like crazily to get a little variety there. I don't want it to get too green. I prefer it to be a little bit on that blue side. But I think overall, I think it's a kind of a nice color, and I don't usually do them like this. But I think it kind of works with it, and it's gives it a brightness that I think draws me into the overall feel for it. I always think of illustrators who, because I do comics and comic books and all that stuff, how everybody had to be able to draw a horse, because there were so many westerns and all that kind of stuff that were out there, and how the generation of illustrators who came before me, way before me, like probably everybody could draw a really good horse, because you do these stories, and to draw a horse in action is not an easy thing. And nowadays we have the internet with all the references, any reference you can possibly do. But, you know, to draw a horse in itself with just certain reference from movies that they would have seen, maybe they've had morgue files where you would have books and books with horses and stuff like that. I used to have so many books for reference of cities and architecture and then fashion, and there's so much things that now all I do is you go on, you look it right up on the internet, and you've got 7,000 versions of something that you need. It's the craziest thing, and you just don't. It's hard for me to remember how hard it was as an illustrator to find reference for things, and once you found it, you travel everywhere with that. With all those books, where I just had so many reference books that I loved, but like a big New York City book or some, like you would go through. But anyway, horses, not easy to draw, not easy to quickly. They tend to look a lot of different ways. So I love having to draw that kind of a thing, and I always, try my best to do this kind of stuff. So I'm just putting a little atmosphere behind the image, and that's my graphic designer part of me. Can't help it. Want to make sure that it's an overall pleasing look to it. I definitely am going to come back at some point to maybe draw some of the other figures with the animals that are at this specific sculpture. So I hope you've enjoyed this. It was a lot of fun getting out there to do it. Visit the Philly Art Museum. It's one of the best museums in the world. Right? A lot of fun. Get outside, draw. We'll see you next episode.